success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others. As I quote Jack Welch right here, I'd like to welcome all of you. I'm Isha Bhalla, and I bring to you this very exciting episode of Cutting Chai Stories, brought to you by ET Edge, where we bring to you conversations with some spectacular leaders over a cup of cutting chai. Well, let me extend a very warm welcome and present to you Mr. Mikhil Innani, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, Apollo Finvest. Thank you, Mikhil, for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Mikhil, I'm sure that our viewers would love to know what your foundation years were like. What was it growing up? What was it having buddies back in school? We'd love to hear some stories from back then.
Oh, again, fantastic, right? So a little bit about myself is I was, my career, and I'm very fortunate to be able to do what I love today.
It obviously shows that you're a go-getter in life and you really do reach out and grab your dreams with both your hands. And you did mention about your mother very fondly and about how you were always encouraged at home. So who would you feel has always been a role model or a positive influence in your life while you were growing up?
Yeah, to be very honest, the way I think about it is, I've obviously, I would say a bunch of people, right? Like I think, very honestly, like I mentioned my mother, right? Like I think she was very, very instrumental because, one of the things that she's kind of instilled with me is, an attitude, a very positive attitude, basically, right? Which, I think not having fear of failure, essentially, right? Because, one of our common dialogues used to be, what's the worst which can happen, right? Jo bhi hoga dekh lenge. What's the worst thing which can happen? Like, at least you should give your best and just try it, right? If this is really what you want to do, let's try it, right? So that was one. I think, second very pivotal, person in my life obviously has been, now my wife, but back then, my girlfriend, right? Like, which is, Diksha, right? She's actually my co-founder in Apollo as well. But when I think about it, we've been together since, I was in second year of engineering. So it's been many, many years at this point in time, right? Like more than, I think, easily like about 15 odd years at this point in time. And very honestly, back then, in engineering, I didn't have the best time, right? Because honestly, I felt like the courses, etc., weren't really exciting me. And if I'm being very honest, it was kind of, killing the technology enthusiast within me, right? But I think, that's where, she didn't let that happen in many ways because, she was like, a person who's so passionate about technology outside of studies, can't, basically be a person says, who says that, I don't want to be in tech because of this poor experiences. So she really pushed me to be like, why don't you explore this further, right? And maybe this isn't the right institution, for you. And, maybe you should do like a master's from a really good school, which can ignite that flame back. And, very honestly, for me, that was one of the most pivotal things in my life, right? Going to CMU. And not because, that's a nice school or whatever, right? Because honestly, I think what happened to me there was I was surrounded by people who were so much more intelligent than me and, so much more ambitious and passionate, right? That honestly, I think what happened to me was I became an average of the 5 people that I hung out with over there, right? So I think their hunger and passion and, honestly, intelligence kind of rubbed off on me, and that became like, normal, right? Like, and when you're surrounded by really smart people, I think most people just end up becoming, similar to the people that they hang out with, right? And that really, changed, my life quite a lot. I think going forward, as I became a little bit of a young adult, there are two things which I'm really passionate about, right? One is, football, and, there I follow, Manchester United quite a lot. And there, obviously, they've had like a legendary manager in Sir Alex Ferguson. And I used to not, and even till today, I don't miss a single match, right? So to me, like the manager over there, right? Like almost like I've learned so much about managing from just seeing him kind of do his thing. So that was a massive influence. And I think on how do you build products and how do you think about companies, I think, I'm yet, somebody who's really a big Apple fanboy, right? So I think obviously Steve Jobs has been like, at home, like there's a joke, right? Like where I almost refer to him as, as Dadaji, right? Like my 2-year-old daughter, I'm pretty sure like a lot of people in my family actually joke around that, she probably thinks her grandfather is, not her actual grandfather, but Steve Jobs, because that's how much I talk about him. So
Right.
all of these, I think 4 or 5 people have been like very, very instrumental, in making me the person I am today.
Right. Well, it's very apparent that you believe in a very positive attitude in life, and you believe in staying in the right company to learn a lot more. And, very recently, I did happen to watch a live match between Manchester United and Chelsea in Manchester, home ground. And
Wow.
so that makes me come to my next question. Do you only watch or do you get time to play as well?
Oh, I let me put it this way, right? I used to till a couple of years back. I used to play quite regularly, but a couple of years back, I was blessed with like a beautiful daughter, right? And now, very honestly, like as every young parent would probably say that we spend a lot of time with them, and the balance between obviously a like staying fit by spending a lot of time in the gym, and then working and having your own company coupled with a really young child, right? In many ways, having a startup and a young child is in many ways it's like having two startups, I would say, or two children, right? Whatever you want to call it. So I think that just takes up so much of my time that essentially now, unfortunately, I have taken the backseat and I just watch the games. But I'm hoping maybe in the next couple of years, as she grows a bit older and starts going to school, I'll get some little bit more time back and I'll go back to the field.
Or maybe you'll have her as a companion on the field.
Well, that already happens now, by the way. So, like, she actually goes to a football class every Friday,
Oh,
and
wow.
every Friday at 5:30, I'm there. So that's some like a father-daughter activity that we actually end up doing. So yeah, in a way, I am on the field, but with her and obviously the friends that she has around there, which are like 2.5 years old, it's just fun to see them play.
Absolutely, and that's the perfect work-life balance that you're creating around yourself, like you said, with two young babies, the startup, and your little one there. So let me ask you, how is it that you keep your team motivated? Because especially in the case of a startup, one always needs that push to go ahead and grab opportunity with both hands. How is it that you push your team?
Very honestly, I believe in a very simple phenomena, right? Like, which is that I think, at least the way I have been in my career, right, is that I never needed motivation to do well in my job because, and I say this even to my team right now, I think people should not do well for their team or for their manager or for their company, right? You should do well because, you have pride for yourself, right? You pride your work. I think it's about like, if you believe you're great, right, you will not drop your standards for anybody, right? Like when I was in my previous companies, whether it was like a Hotstar or a Coupon Dunia, etc., right? I remember being in meetings and I should just say like, no, we won't do substandard work just because it's going to be on my resume, it's going to be on my conscience. I can't sleep at night knowing that somebody will associate me with like poor quality work, right? Because I think everybody should just do something which naturally they are passionate about, right? It's something which you do because this is something which you're just not okay with poor quality, because again, you're not trying to please anybody, right? This is just like your innate desire to be able to produce work which makes you sleep with a smile on your face, right? I think the way simple thing I would put it as is that everybody should try and discover work which seems like play for you but work for others, essentially, right? That's when you really excel. And the way we're able to do that at a place like Apollo is because we don't have like a massive team, right? Our team is like 32 people, right? So all I have to really do, and one of the things which I try to do at Apollo is that we try to find people who are naturally curious, and not curious necessarily in what we do, which is fintech, right? We try to find people who are curious about anything, right? Like as an example, like in interviews, right, we genuinely ask this question like, what is one thing you're really passionate about, right? And they can be saying anything. They could be saying Bollywood, they could be saying cricket, they could be saying whatever they want, right? And we'll just keep asking them questions about that field, right? Because you literally told me what you're passionate about, and I want to see, when you're passionate, how deep can you get, right? Because one of the things that we are very confident about is that once you come here in this cult of ours, we are pretty sure you will you will be very, very passionate about this as well, because we genuinely find what work that we do is very interesting and, unique in many ways, right? Uh, the only thing we try to measure is that opposite person have that trait to go deep into anything that they do get passionate about, right? Because making somebody passionate, leave that up to us. But we want to really identify that X factor, that person can commit to something. And in today's day of social media, I think that's becoming a rarer and rarer trait. There'll be a lot of people who will have superficial knowledge or go at a shallow level at something.
You just shared with us and our viewers the secret of getting a role in your team. So thank you for that. But let me ask you, you mentioned how you really need to enjoy your work to sort of enjoy the sort of environment you're in. I'd like to ask you, you spoke about your team as of now, it's a young team of 32 people, but the number keeps growing. How is it that you keep them bonded? How is it that you encourage teamwork?
Yeah, very honestly, I'll tell you, so at Apollo, we've been building now for 7 to 8 years, right? And, it's a company which is actually publicly listed as well. Very honestly, I truly believe like one of the things that we've absolutely gotten right at Apollo is the fact that we've always kept a very, very small and compact team, right? Um, and I genuinely believe efficiencies are highly lost the minute you kind of go beyond a certain amount of efficient number of people, right? And one of the things which I really feel is we've really got right is two things, I would say, right? One is tremendous amount of focus, right? Because I feel like a lot of companies, and I've experienced this as well in the past, right? A lot of companies tend to build 100 things, out of which actually probably 10 or 20 things are really meaningful, right? And that really has makes the delta in the bottom line, right? What we do at Apollo is we're incredibly focused about making sure how do you basically decide to make sure that you have actually that delta in the bottom line with what you build, and you don't build rubbish, right? Because the problem of building rubbish is two things. One is you'll require extra people. Second, it's very difficult to find ultra high quality people as you increase the number of people, right? It's easier having 30, 35 ultra high quality people rather than having 100 ultra high quality people, right? And at the same point in time, when you end up building things which don't have an impact on the bottom line, it negatively impacts morale, right? Because nobody on earth wants to do meaningless work, right? Everybody wants to do work where they actually, it goes to production and it has real value. And it once, they're seeing positive impact, right? That loop, that what you just did made a massive difference in the positive direction. It leads to massive amount of confidence, right? And I feel like human beings are confidence creatures, right? And nothing can beat positive momentum. I can go and talk till the cows come home, right? And try to motivate my people, but nothing motivates a person better than doing impactful work, right? So what my job over here is to make sure that we only try and do stuff which has a positive impact on the bottom line, and that acts as a really good loop, as a feedback loop, and keeps my team really, really motivated to go in and do more impactful, right? So that's the top of the funnel solution, right? Another thing that we really, really do, right, is that because you keep a very compact team, right, you have high degrees of collaboration, right? When you have high degrees of collaboration, which you'll naturally get in a company which has just 30 people, everybody knows a bit about everybody, and that leads to a lot.
Thank you so much, Mikhil. You really did talk about how it's quality over quantity and being focused, which is of vital importance for you and your team. And as we really got to know you as a person and not just a leader, we'd like to have a little bit of a fun time with you over this rapid fire. So are you ready?
Let's go.
All right, let's see. It's a yes or no. Let's begin. But do you sometimes wish you could go back to high school problems instead of business challenges?
No, I actually enjoyed this much better, to be honest.
Okay, do you ever use your early meetings, work, or baby at home to leave a social event sooner?
100%, yes.
Okay, are you a hoarder or do you often let go of things to avoid clutter?
I am actually definitely I let go of things. So I try to be as minimalist as possible.
Okay, do you ever think that you will be capable of functioning on such little sleep as you do with a hectic schedule at work and a young child?
No, I value my sleep quite a lot. In fact, like I would say, after having a child, I value it even more. So I encourage actually everybody to get, very, very good sleep so that you can actually function at 120% throughout the day. In the early days of, my daughter Zoe, and, where we used to have very, very poor sleep. I only know how we kind of managed it throughout the day in Apollo, right? So like now, I'm like a big proponent of sleep. I always encourage people to get the best sleep possible, so you can have like a fantastic day.
Okay, so do you have any cheat days, not going to gym, making sure you grab every sweet thing that you see around?
Yes, of course. Right. And work out maybe 3 to 4 times a week. But like I think everybody we do indulge in ourselves, once in a while, right? So I think maybe on a Saturday or a Friday, right? One day a week, sometime we'll decide to kind of go out. We all at home, me and my wife love pizza. And she also does love, Chinese food. So one way or the other, we'll try to find like a good spot for us to go and, check out some really good cuisine as well.
Okay, and finally, have you ever skipped pages in a business presentation, moved on to the next slide just so it finishes, ends sooner?
Unfortunately, it's way often than I would like to kind of, say publicly, but it's true, right? I think a lot of the presentations out there can usually just be 6, 7 slides, but unfortunately, I think it's a hangover from our education system that people write long answers because they think the teacher is going to give a lot of marks for that. But actually the reality is that I think most points can usually be covered in a 6 to 7 slide presentation, right? Like if you really cut it down to the absolute core of what you want to communicate.
All right, and finally, let me ask you, who do you prefer, your co-founder or your better half in life?
So I think that's a very tough question because I can't imagine doing either of the two things without her. But if I had to pick, right, I would pick basically definitely my wife because I think I can't imagine anybody else with whom I can grow my daughter, and that's like in my order of priority of things, that's like number one. Like just wanted to make sure that she has a fantastic childhood. So yeah, everything flows from that, so no doubt about it that I'd choose my wife.
Well, you get 10 on 10 and also brownie points from your wife on that answer. But thank you so much. It has
Yeah.
been absolutely wonderful getting to know you.